Marcus Chen had been mining asteroids in the Kepler belt for 3 years when he found the egg. His automated excavators had carved deep into the mineral-rich rock of asteroid XK-47 when they struck something that definitely wasn't iron ore. The scanners went crazy, detecting organic compounds and energy signatures unlike anything in the databases. The thing was roughly the size of a small shuttle, with a crystalline shell that seemed to pulse with inner light. Marcus suited up and rappelled down into the excavation site, his headlamp cutting through the darkness. Up close, the shell was beautiful, translucent with veins of gold and silver running through it like lightning frozen in time. But what made his breath catch was the crack running down one side, and the tiny claw poking through. Marcus had studied xenobiology before turning to mining. He knew this was a sentient species egg, probably abandoned here long ago. The readings suggested the creature inside was dying, the energy signatures were failing, the temperature dropping. He faced a choice that would change everything. Leave it and continue mining, or risk his career and freedom by violating about 17 different interstellar treaties. The claw twitched weakly, and Marcus made his decision. Getting the egg aboard his ship, the Wanderer, took 6 hours and nearly every piece of loading equipment he had. He cleared out his cargo hold and rigged a makeshift incubator using the ship's heating systems and his medical bay's life support. The shell was warm to the touch now, and the cracks were spreading. Whatever was inside was trying to get out. Marcus researched frantically through his databases, cross-referencing the energy signatures and shell composition. The closest match made his blood run cold. This was a Draconis egg, from the ancient species that had once ruled half the galaxy before mysteriously vanishing 3,000 years ago. According to legend, they were beings of immense power and intelligence capable of manipulating energy itself. The first crack appeared at 0347 ship time. Marcus watched from behind protective plating as the shell began to split along natural fault lines. A snout emerged first, reptilian but elegant with scales that shifted color in the light. Then came the head, no bigger than Marcus's fist, with large eyes that seemed to hold impossible depth. The creature looked directly at him and made a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. It was beautiful. It was also clearly starving. The hatchling, Marcus couldn't think of it as anything else, struggled to free itself from the shell. Its wings were translucent membranes shot through with the same gold and silver veins as the egg. When it finally broke free, it was no larger than a house cat. But Marcus could feel the raw potential radiating from its tiny form. The creature tried to stand and collapsed immediately. Its breathing was labored, and those magnificent eyes were growing dim. Marcus realized with growing horror that dragon hatchlings probably needed some kind of specialized nutrition, energy or minerals that his ship simply didn't have. He was watching a miracle of evolution die in his cargo hold, and there was nothing he could do about it. Except maybe there was. Marcus had read about the old myths how dragons were said to feed on pure energy. His ship's reactor core was a miniaturized fusion plant contained behind layers of shielding and safety protocols. It was probably insane, but he began rerouting power conduits, creating a direct feed from the reactor to the cargo hold. If the legends were true, if dragons really could absorb energy directly. The moment he activated the feed, the hatchling's head snapped up. It looked at the glowing power coupling Marcus had jury-rigged, then at Marcus himself. Those ancient eyes seemed to understand exactly what he was offering. The creature moved with sudden strength, placing one tiny claw on the coupling. The ship's lights dimmed as the hatchling drew power directly from the reactor. But instead of draining the system, something incredible happened. The power flow stabilized at exactly what the ship needed, as if the creature was regulating the feed to take only what it required. The hatchling's scales brightened, and it grew visibly stronger. Marcus stared in wonder as the tiny dragon settled down next to the power coupling, apparently content. It looked at him again and made that wind chime sound, softer this time. Almost like gratitude. "What am I going to do with you?" Marcus whispered. The hatchling tilted its head as if it understood the question. Then it did something that made Marcus's heart stop. It spoke, not with words, but directly into his mind, its thoughts somehow translating into concepts he could understand. Lonely. The voice was like starlight given sound. Mother gone. Pack gone. Only you. Marcus felt tears he didn't know he was crying. This ancient, powerful being had been abandoned, left to die alone in the cold of space. Just like he had been, in a way, when his family died and he'd taken to the asteroids to escape the pain. "You're not alone anymore," he said aloud, not caring if the creature could understand his words. "I'll take care of you." The hatchling moved closer, carefully avoiding the power coupling, and pressed its warm body against Marcus's leg. The contact sent a jolt of sensation through him, not painful but like touching a live wire made of pure contentment. "Pack bond," the voice whispered in his mind. "You are pack now." Marcus reached down slowly and touched the creature's head with one finger. The scales were warm and impossibly smooth. "I guess I am," he said. "What do I call you?" The answer came immediately, along with images of stars being born in nebular clouds. "Stellar wind." "Stellar wind," Marcus repeated. "I like it." As if responding to its name, the hatchling, Stellar Wind, purred like a cosmic engine. Marcus felt something fundamental shift inside him. He'd found purpose again, something worth protecting, but he also realized his life had just become infinitely more complicated. Keeping a dragon hatchling secret wouldn't be easy. The mining guild would want to know why his power consumption had changed. Customs officials would scan his ship. And somewhere out there, someone might be looking for what he'd found. Marcus settled down next to Stellar Wind, feeling the warmth radiating from the small form. "We'll figure it out," he said. "One day at a time." Outside, the stars wheeled in, their ancient patterns unaware that the galaxy was about to change forever. 2 months passed like a fever dream. Stellar Wind grew with impossible speed, reaching the size of a large dog within weeks. The creature's appetite for energy had grown too, forcing Marcus to install additional power couplings throughout the ship. But the dragon had learned to regulate its feeding perfectly, never taking more than the ship could spare. More importantly, Stellar Wind was learning. The dragon absorbed information like a sponge, mastering human language in days and understanding complex concepts that should have taken years to grasp. Marcus found himself talking to the creature for hours about everything from stellar mechanics to human philosophy. "The mining guild will be conducting their quarterly inspection next week," Marcus explained as he ran diagnostics on the ship's systems. "You'll need to hide in the shielded compartment I built." Stellar Wind's mental voice carried a note of concern. "They hunt pack kind?" "Not exactly," Marcus said carefully. "But they wouldn't understand. To them, you'd be either a weapon or a commodity. Neither of us wants that." The dragon had grown beautiful as it matured. Its scales now shifted through the entire spectrum, responding to mood and thought. When happy, Stellar Wind glowed with warm golds and blues. When concentrating, the scales turned deep purple shot through with silver. The wings had developed too, though the dragon still couldn't fly in the ship's artificial gravity. "Show you something," Stellar Wind said suddenly. The dragon moved to the center of the cargo hold and spread its wings wide. The membrane between the wing struts began to glow, and Marcus felt the hair on his arm stand up as energy gathered in the air. Then Stellar Wind released whatever it had been building. The cargo hold filled with dancing lights, not random but forming patterns that told a story. Marcus saw images of vast cities floating among the stars, of dragons larger than battleships soaring between worlds, of an empire that spanned galaxies. The lights showed him the rise and fall of the Draconis civilization, their mastery of energy and space, and finally their mysterious disappearance. "This is your people's history," Marcus breathed. "Was," Stellar Wind's mental voice carried deep sadness. "Now just you and me." The lights faded, and Marcus felt the dragon's loneliness like a physical weight. He moved closer, placing his hand on Stellar Wind's flank. The dragon was warm, almost hot to the touch, but the contact was comforting for both of them. "You're not the last," Marcus said firmly. "There have to be others out there." Mother thought so too. Searched long time, found only empty worlds and old bones. Marcus felt a chill despite Stellar Wind's warmth. "Is that why she left you?" To keep searching? The dragon's scales shifted to deep blue. The color Marcus had learned meant profound sadness. Mother was dying. Old wound from the war that scattered us. Left me where energy was strong, hoped I would survive long enough. For someone to find you, Marcus finished. She was right. Pack bond saved me. Would have died alone in the dark. Marcus stroked the dragon's neck, feeling the powerful muscles beneath the scales. Stellar Wind had shared fragments of dragon physiology with him over the weeks. The creatures were living energy converters, able to absorb, store, and manipulate power in ways that defied human understanding. But they were also deeply social beings. Isolation could literally kill them. We should probably run some practice drills, Marcus said, changing the subject. For the inspection, Stellar Wind's scales brightened with what Marcus had learned was the dragon equivalent of a grin. Hide and seek? Something like that. They spent the next hour practicing emergency protocols. Stellar Wind could compress its body temperature and energy signature to almost nothing, making it nearly invisible to most scanners. The shielded compartment Marcus had built would hide the rest. But if the inspectors brought military-grade equipment... Not worry so much, Stellar Wind projected, sensing Marcus's anxiety. If discovered, we run. Ship fast, you clever. We'll survive. It's not just about surviving, Marcus said. If they take you away, they'll either dissect you to learn how you work or try to turn you into a weapon. I won't let that happen. Stellar Wind moved closer, pressing its large head against Marcus's chest. The dragon had learned human gestures of comfort, adapting them to its own physiology. Pack protects pack. You taught me this. The inspection went smoothly. 3 guild officials spent 4 hours going over the ship's systems, checking Marcus's mining reports and scanning for contraband. Stellar Wind remained perfectly hidden, its life signs masked by the shielding Marcus had installed. The dragon even helped, using its energy manipulation abilities to dampen certain readings that might have seemed suspicious. Your power consumption has increased significantly, Inspector Walsh noted. Reviewing his readings, Marcus had prepared for this. Upgraded my mining systems. More efficient extraction means higher energy draw, but the yield increase more than compensates. Walsh seemed satisfied. Well, everything checks out. Your productivity numbers are impressive, Chen. Keep up the good work. After the inspectors left, Stellar Wind emerged from hiding with scales blazing triumphant gold. Easy. Humans not so observant. Don't get overconfident, Marcus warned, but he was smiling. This was just a routine inspection. If someone specifically comes looking for you, then we be ready. Stellar Wind said with certainty that Marcus found both reassuring and slightly terrifying. That night, as Marcus lay in his bunk and Stellar Wind coiled nearby like a living heater, the dragon shared a new fragment of memory. This one showed the great dragons in battle, not fighting each other but defending younger species from something dark and hungry that devoured worlds. Guardians, Stellar Wind explained. Pack protected the small ones. Is that what you want to be? Marcus asked. A guardian? The dragon's scales shifted through several colors before settling on determined silver. Want to be like you? Protect Pack. Make galaxy safer for small ones. Marcus felt something stir in his chest. Pride, affection, and a growing sense that his simple life as an asteroid miner was about to become much more complicated. Stellar Wind was growing stronger every day, and with that strength came abilities that could reshape the balance of power in this part of the galaxy. We'll need to be careful, he said. There are forces out there that wouldn't hesitate to use you for their own ends. Then we make sure they don't catch us. Stellar Wind replied with draconic confidence, as Marcus drifted off to sleep. He couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere in the dark between the stars, something had taken notice of the energy signatures his ship was producing. Something that had been waiting a very long time for a dragon to reveal itself. The peaceful months were about to end. The attack came without warning. Marcus was running a routine survey of asteroid KL-229 when his proximity alarms screamed. 3 ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, sleek, predatory vessels that didn't match any design in his databases. They moved with the fluid grace of living things, their hulls seeming to ripple in the starlight. Hunters. Stellar Wind's mental voice carried a chill that made Marcus's blood freeze. The dragon had grown to the size of a small shuttle in the 6 months since the inspection, its power growing exponentially. Now those magnificent scales had gone dead black, a color Marcus had never seen before. "You know what these are?" Marcus asked, already plotting escape vectors. The Wanderer was fast, but those ships looked built for pursuit. Old enemies. The Devourers. They sense me. Marcus felt his heart sink. He'd feared this day would come, but hoped they'd have more time to prepare. Stellar Wind was powerful, but still young. These creatures, whatever they were, had been hunting dragons for millennia. The lead ship broadcast on all frequencies, its message delivered in a voice like grinding metal. "Human vessel, you carry contraband of the highest order. Surrender the creature and you will be permitted to leave. Resist and you will be destroyed." "Like hell," Marcus muttered, firing up the ship's engines. "Stellar Wind, I need everything you can give me." "Already giving," the dragon replied. Marcus felt the ship's power systems surge as Stellar Wind fed energy directly into the engines. The Wanderer leaped forward with acceleration that should have pulped them both, but somehow the dragon was compensating, creating a protective field that absorbed the G-forces. The pursuing ships responded immediately, moving with inhuman coordination. They were fast, faster than anything had a right to be. Energy bolts lanced past the Wanderer, each one powerful enough to vaporize a building. "Who are they?" Marcus shouted over the sound of straining engines. Images flooded his mind as Stellar Wind shared fragments of ancient memory. The Devourers were creatures of living shadow and hunger, beings that consumed the life force of entire worlds. They had appeared during the height of the Draconis Empire, spreading like a plague across the galaxy. The dragons had fought them for centuries, pushing them back into the dark spaces between stars. Thought they were gone, Stellar Wind projected, fear coloring its mental voice. Sleeping in the void, but they wake when packkind shows itself. Another energy bolt clipped the ship's shields, sending sparks flying from the control panels. Marcus wrestled with the controls as the Wanderer bucked like an angry beast. They needed cover, somewhere to hide while they figured out their next move. The asteroid field ahead offered possibilities, lots of rocks to hide behind, plenty of interference for sensors. Marcus dove into the maze of tumbling stone, using every trick he'd learned in years of mining to navigate the deadly obstacles. The Devourer ships followed without hesitation, their hulls rippling as they phased through solid rock. They weren't entirely physical, Marcus realized with growing horror. They existed partially in normal space and partially in something else, somewhere darker. Energy beings, Stellar Wind confirmed. Feed on life force, dragons especially. We taste like power to them. A massive asteroid loomed ahead, hollowed out by centuries of mining. Marcus dove into the artificial cavern, hoping the rock would mask their signatures. The Wanderer scraped against the tunnel walls as they penetrated deep into the asteroid's heart. Behind them, the Devourers paused at the entrance. Marcus held his breath, watching the sensors. For a moment it seemed like they might have lost them. Then the lead ship began to glow. "They're charging some kind of weapon," Marcus reported, watching the energy readings spike. "Planet killer," Stellar Wind said simply. "We'll destroy asteroid to get to us." Marcus stared at the readings in disbelief. These creatures were willing to vaporize an entire asteroid just to eliminate one young dragon. The casual destructiveness of it was staggering. Then we don't give them the chance. Marcus triggered every explosive charge the Wanderer carried, mining charges meant for breaking up asteroids. He jettisoned them throughout the tunnel system, creating a network of timed detonations. It wouldn't stop the Devourers, but it might buy them precious seconds. The Wanderer burst from the far side of the asteroid just as the explosions began. The entire rock collapsed in on itself, creating a debris field that would confuse sensors for hours. But Marcus knew it was only a temporary reprieve. "They will follow," Stellar Wind said with certainty. "Cannot hide from them forever." "Then we don't hide," Marcus said, making a decision that terrified and exhilarated him in equal measure. "We fight." Stellar Wind's scales shifted to brilliant silver, the color of determination. "Am too young. Not strong enough yet." "Maybe not alone," Marcus agreed. "But you're not alone." He began inputting coordinates for the nearest human outpost, Kepler Station, a trading hub that served the outer mining colonies. It wasn't much, but it had defensive platforms and a small garrison. If they could reach it, The Devourer ships emerged from the asteroid field like sharks scenting blood. They'd lost the element of surprise, but they were still faster than the Wanderer. The gap between them narrowed with each passing minute. "They will destroy station to get to me," Stellar Wind warned. "Humans not equipped to fight such beings." "Maybe not," Marcus said. "But humans are good at adapting, and you're going to help them." He opened a channel to Kepler Station, broadcasting on emergency frequencies. "This is Marcus Chen aboard the mining vessel Wanderer. I am being pursued by hostile ships of unknown origin. Request immediate assistance." The response came quickly. "Chen, this is Commander Sarah Nash. Our sensors show 3 bogies closing on your position." "What the hell did you stumble into out there?" Marcus looked at Stellar Wind, seeing his own determination reflected in those ancient eyes. "Something that's been hunting in the dark for a very long time. But I think it's time someone hunted them back." "Ready to fight," Stellar Wind projected, scales blazing with white-hot energy. Pack protects pack. The station's defensive platforms were coming online, their weapon systems cycling up to full power. Marcus watched the tactical display, seeing the human defenders preparing to face an enemy they couldn't possibly understand. But they had one advantage the Devourers wouldn't expect. For the first time in 3,000 years, they had a dragon on their side. The real battle was about to begin. The Wanderer limped into Kepler Station's defensive perimeter, with the Devourer ships closing fast. Marcus had never been so glad to see the bristling weapon platforms and patrol craft that protected the trading hub. Commander Nash's voice crackled over the comm as the station's fighters scrambled to intercept. "Chen, get to docking bay 7. We'll hold them off while you—" "No," Marcus interrupted. "You can't fight these things conventionally. They're not entirely physical. Your weapons will just pass through them unless—" He looked at Stellar Wind, who had grown noticeably in just the hours since the chase began. The dragon's body was absorbing ambient energy from the station's power grid, using it to fuel rapid growth. Those ancient eyes held grim understanding. "Must reveal myself," Stellar Wind projected. "Only way to save pack." "Commander Nash," Marcus said, his voice steady despite the fear crawling up his spine. "I need you to trust me. Redirect all available power to docking bay 7. All of it." "Chen, that's insane. We need that power for weapons and shields." "Your weapons won't work," Marcus said bluntly. "These things exist partially in subspace. But I have something that can hurt them. I just need power." A pause. Then Nash's voice, sharp with command authority. "Explain now." The Devourer ships had reached the outer platforms. Marcus watched in horror as they simply phased through the defensive fire, their shadow hulls rippling like liquid darkness. The energy bolts that should have destroyed them passed harmlessly through their forms. "Commander, I'm transmitting a power coupling design to your engineers. Jury-rig it in the docking bay and feed it everything you've got. Do it now or we're all dead." To her credit, Nash didn't hesitate. "Engineering, you heard him." "Make it happen." The station shuddered as the first Devourer ship reached the defensive platforms. Instead of attacking them directly, the creature began to feed. Marcus watched the power readings from Platform Alpha drop to 0 as the Devourer consumed its energy reserves. The weapons went dark, the shields failed, and then the platform itself began to crumble as its structural integrity fields collapsed. "Feeding," Stellar Wind confirmed grimly. "Making themselves stronger for the real fight." Marcus guided the Wanderer into the docking bay just as the jury-rigged power coupling came online. The moment Stellar Wind touched the connection, the dragon's transformation accelerated dramatically. Energy poured into its form, and the creature grew from shuttle size to the length of a small frigate in moments. The docking bay doors sealed just as the first Devourer ship reached the station proper. Through the external cameras, Marcus watched the shadow creature begin its assault on the main hull. Where it touched, metal corroded and power systems failed. "Time to hunt," Stellar Wind said, its mental voice now carrying harmonics that made the air itself vibrate. The dragon had become magnificent and terrible. Its scales blazed with contained starfire, and its wings spread to fill half the docking bay. Energy danced between its claws in patterns that hurt to look at directly. This was what the Devourers had feared, what they had hunted across the galaxy, a fully powered Draconis warrior. "How do we get you outside?" Marcus asked. "We don't," Stellar Wind replied. "They come to us." The dragon spread its wings and began to sing, not with its voice but with pure energy that resonated through dimensions. The song was a challenge, a declaration of war that cut through space and time like a blade. Every devourer in the system would feel it and know that their ancient enemy had returned. The response was immediate. All three devourer ships abandoned their feeding and converged on the station. Marcus felt the hull shake as they attached themselves to the outer structure, their forms shifting from shadow to something more solid as they prepared for battle. "Opening way," Stellar Wind announced. The dragon's claws extended, now glowing white-hot with energy. With surgical precision, it carved through the docking bay's outer hull, creating an opening large enough for its body. The station's emergency system screamed as atmosphere began to vent, but Stellar Wind compensated, creating a localized field that contained the breach. The first devourer came through the opening like living nightmare. It was vaguely humanoid but wrong in every dimension. Too tall, too thin, with limbs that bent in impossible directions. Its face was a void that seemed to drink light, and when it spoke, reality itself seemed to shiver. "Ancient enemy," it hissed in a voice like dying stars. "You should have stayed hidden in the dark." Stellar Wind's response was a beam of pure energy that would have vaporized a battleship. The devourer partially phased, letting most of the energy pass through its form, but Marcus saw it flinch. The dragon's power could hurt these things. The battle that followed was beyond anything Marcus could have imagined. Dragon and devourer fought across multiple dimensions simultaneously, their conflict spilling into realms where physics had different rules. Energy lanced through the docking bay in impossible colors, and the very air crackled with forces that shouldn't exist in normal space. Stellar Wind moved like liquid lightning, its form blurring between states of matter as it matched the devourer's dimensional shifting. Each exchange sent shockwaves through the station's hull, and Marcus realized that even shielded behind emergency barriers, he was witnessing something that could tear reality apart. Two more coming. Stellar Wind warned without breaking its deadly dance with the first devourer. Marcus looked at the tactical display and saw the dragon was right. The other two ships were cutting through the station's hull, preparing to join the battle. Stellar Wind was powerful, but fighting three of these ancient horrors at once. "Commander Nash," Marcus called over the comm, "I need you to evacuate sections 12 through 18, and get every fighter you have ready to provide covering fire. Our weapons are useless against these things." "Not against them," Marcus clarified. "But Stellar Wind can't protect the station and fight at the same time. Those fighters can draw them away from civilian areas." Nash understood immediately. "All fighters scramble. Distraction pattern Delta. Keep those nightmares away from the residential sections." The second devourer burst through the hull just as Stellar Wind managed to land a devastating blow on the first. The creature's scream shattered windows throughout the station as Stellar Wind's energy claws tore through its partially phased form. Dark ichor that wasn't quite liquid and wasn't quite shadow sprayed across the docking bay. But the wounded devourer wasn't finished. It lunged forward, its void face opening to reveal rows of teeth that existed in too many dimensions. Stellar Wind twisted away, but not quickly enough. Those impossible teeth raked across the dragon's flank, leaving wounds that leaked golden light. "Pack." Stellar Wind's mental voice carried pain and something else. Apology. "If I fall, run. Find others of my kind. Tell them the devourers have returned." "You're not going to fall," Marcus said fiercely, "because you're not fighting alone." He triggered the Wanderer's weapon systems, knowing they were useless against the devourers themselves. But the mining charges and industrial lasers could still affect the station's infrastructure. Carefully, precisely, Marcus began to collapse sections of the docking bay, creating barriers and choke points that would force the devourers to fight Stellar Wind one at a time, instead of overwhelming the dragon with numbers. The strategy worked. The second devourer found its approach blocked by fallen debris, giving Stellar Wind time to finish the first. The ancient creature dissolved into shadow and screaming wind as the dragon's final attack tore its essence apart. But the victory came at a cost. Stellar Wind was wounded and tiring, its energy reserves depleting despite the power feed from the station. The remaining two devourers seemed to sense this, pressing their attack with renewed fury. Marcus watched the battle and made a decision that surprised even him. He activated the Wanderer's self-destruct sequence and began to program a very specific detonation pattern. "Stellar Wind," he called, "I need you to trust me one more time." The dragon's response carried exhaustion but absolute faith. Always trust Pack. Marcus smiled grimly and prepared to show these ancient predators what human ingenuity could accomplish when protecting family. Marcus's plan was insane, brilliant, and probably suicidal. He'd rigged the Wanderer's fusion reactor to create a controlled dimensional rupture, something that should have been impossible with human technology. But Stellar Wind's presence changed the rules. The dragon's energy field could stabilize the rupture long enough to trap the remaining devourers in a collapsing pocket of spacetime. The problem was that Stellar Wind would have to stay behind to maintain the field. Understand plan, the dragon projected, its mental voice calm despite the chaos around them. Is good death worth it to save Pack? No, Marcus said firmly. There has to be another way. The second devourer had finally broken through the debris barriers and was closing on Stellar Wind's position. The third was cutting through the station's hull directly above them, its shadow form rippling with anticipation. Marcus could feel the hunger radiating from the creatures, not just for energy, but for the specific taste of draconic life force. Stellar Wind met the second devourer head-on, their battle a three-dimensional light show that left after-images burned into Marcus's retinas. But the dragon was clearly weakening. Golden ichor dripped from multiple wounds and its energy discharges were becoming less focused. Marcus. Stellar Wind's thoughts carried deep affection and growing urgency. Pack bond's strongest thing in universe, but sometimes Pack must let go. Shut up, Marcus snarled, his fingers flying over the Wanderer's controls. Just shut up and fight. I'm not losing you. He activated every mining system on the ship simultaneously, turning the Wanderer into a massive excavation platform. Tractor beams, cutting lasers, and fusion torches all came online at once, creating a web of destructive energy that filled the docking bay. The Devourers couldn't phase through all of it. Some frequencies seemed to anchor them in normal space. The effect was immediate. The second Devourer found itself partially solid, its shadow form locked into a single dimension. Stellar Wind seized the opportunity, pouring everything it had into a concentrated energy beam that punched through the creature's center mass. The Devourer's death scream shattered every piece of glass on the station, but the third one had arrived. This Devourer was different from the others. Older, more powerful, its form more stable in normal space. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of eons. Young dragon, you fight well for a child, but you know how this ends. We have hunted your kind since the stars were young. Stellar Wind drew itself up to its full height, scales blazing with defiant light. Then you know we do not yield. No, the ancient Devourer agreed. You burn brightly and die gloriously. It is what makes you so flavorful. The creature attacked with movements too fast to follow. Stellar Wind barely managed to deflect the assault, its defensive field straining under the onslaught. This Devourer wasn't just trying to kill the dragon. It was playing with its prey, savoring the anticipation of the feast to come. Marcus realized with sick certainty that Stellar Wind couldn't win this fight. The dragon was too young, too inexperienced. In a few more minutes it would be dead, and these creatures would move on to consume other worlds, other innocent lives, unless... Marcus looked at the dimensional rupture device he'd built from the Wanderer's reactor core. The theory was sound, but it needed someone to manually trigger the field collapse. Someone who understood the energy dynamics involved. Someone like a human who'd spent months in mental contact with a dragon. Stellar Wind, Marcus called. The pack bond. It goes both ways, doesn't it? Even in the middle of combat, the dragon understood immediately. No, Marcus. Too dangerous. Bond not designed for human minds, but it's possible. A pause as Stellar Wind deflected another attack. Possible, but would change you. Forever. Marcus smiled, feeling a strange peace settle over him. I'm okay with that. He moved to the dimensional rupture device and placed his hands on the control matrix. The metal was warm, charged with exotic energies that made his skin tingle. All he had to do was open his mind completely, let Stellar Wind's essence flow into him, and then channel that power into the device. Marcus, no. Stellar Wind's mental voice was desperate.
Or we'll kill you.
Maybe, Marcus admitted. Or maybe it'll make me something new. Either way, I'm not watching you die. He reached out with his consciousness, feeling for the pack bond that connected him to Stellar Wind. It was there, a golden thread of energy that pulsed with shared emotions and experiences. Marcus grabbed hold of that thread and pulled. The transformation was agony and ecstasy combined. Stellar Wind's draconic essence poured into Marcus's human mind, rewriting neural pathways and flooding his consciousness with 3,000 years of racial memory. He felt his body changing, energy circuits burning themselves into his flesh as he became something unprecedented, a human-dragon hybrid linked by bonds deeper than biology. Power beyond imagination flowed through him. Marcus could see across dimensions, feel the fabric of space-time like a physical thing. The Devourers weren't just energy beings, they were parasites, feeding on the quantum foam that underlied reality itself, and he knew exactly how to kill them. Marcus triggered the dimensional rupture device with thought alone. The air around the docking bay began to fold in on itself, creating a pocket of compressed space-time that nothing could escape. The ancient Devourer tried to phase away, but Marcus held the creature fast with bonds of pure will. "Impossible," the Devourer hissed. "You are human?" "I was human," Marcus agreed, his voice now carrying harmonics that made reality shiver. "Now I'm something else." Stellar Wind had broken off its attack, staring at Marcus with wonder and concern. The dragon's scales showed swirling patterns of joy and fear as it took in what Marcus had become. Pack bond successful, Stellar Wind projected, its mental voice filled with amazement. "But at great cost. Can feel your pain." Marcus smiled, tasting copper and starlight. "It's worth it. We did it, Stellar Wind. We saved them." The dimensional rupture completed its collapse, taking the ancient Devourer with it into nothingness. The creature's final scream echoed across multiple dimensions before cutting off abruptly. Silence fell over the docking bay, broken only by the gentle hum of the station's life support systems. Commander Nash's voice crackled over the comm. "Chen? Chen, respond. What the hell just happened over there?" Marcus tried to answer and discovered that speech was difficult. His vocal cords had been restructured, and his thoughts were now partially quantum distributed. But he managed to form words. "Threat neutralized. Station is safe. Thank God. We're sending medical teams to—" "No," Marcus interrupted gently. "I'm not injured, just changed." Stellar Wind moved closer, its great head nuzzling against Marcus's altered form. Up close, Marcus could see that the dragon had changed too. The pack bond had affected them both, making them more than the sum of their parts. "What are we now?" Stellar Wind asked. Marcus considered the question, feeling new possibilities unfold in his transformed consciousness. He could sense other dragons scattered across the galaxy, isolated, hiding, waiting, and he could feel the deep currents of space-time itself, the cosmic web that connected all things. "We're guardians," he said finally, "like your people were, like they should be again." Stellar Wind's scales brightened with hope and determination.
"Find the others?"
"Yes," Marcus said, his transformed senses already reaching out across the stars. "We find them all, and we teach them that they don't have to hide anymore." The war with the Devourers was far from over, but for the first time in 3,000 years the dragons had allies who understood that some bonds were worth any sacrifice. The pack was growing. 3 years had passed since the battle at Kepler Station, and the galaxy was beginning to wake up to the reality that humanity was no longer alone among the stars. Marcus and Stellar Wind had found 17 dragons in that time, survivors who had been hiding in dead systems, sleeping in asteroid fields, or masquerading as natural phenomena. Each rescue had been a revelation, and each new pack bond had made their growing family stronger. The abandoned research station on Terminus 7 had become their unofficial headquarters. Built centuries ago by a species that had vanished before humans reached the stars, it provided perfect concealment for their operations. The station's vast halls now echoed with draconic voices, not the lonely whisper of a single mind, but the harmonic chorus of a restored pack. Marcus stood in the central chamber, his transformed body crackling with contained energy as he studied holographic star charts. The pack bond with Stellar Wind had stabilized over the years, leaving him something more than human but still recognizably himself. He could see across dimensions now, manipulate energy with thought alone, and most importantly, he could hear the quantum signatures of dragons anywhere in local space. "New contact," Stellar Wind announced, the great dragon's mental voice now one of many in the pack network. "Outer Rim Vega Sector. Distress pattern." Marcus nodded, already plotting a course. Each rescue mission had taught them something new about devourer hunting patterns. The shadow creatures were ancient and patient, but they had weaknesses. They fed on fear and isolation, growing stronger when their prey was alone and desperate. A pack of dragons working in coordination could turn their own hunting tactics against them. How many devourers? Marcus asked, unknown. Signal degraded, but something different about this one. Older patterns in the distress call. That gave Marcus pause. Most of the dragons they'd found were relatively young, survivors who had been hidden as eggs or hatchlings during the Great Scattering. But this signal suggested something else entirely. Assembly, Marcus called, his voice carrying across multiple dimensions. The pack responded immediately. 17 dragons materialized in the central chamber, their form shimmering as they shifted between physical and energy states. They had learned much from each other over the years, sharing memories and techniques that had been lost for millennia. Together they were becoming something the galaxy hadn't seen since the height of the Draconis Empire. Stellar Wind took its place at Marcus's side, the bond between them serving as the focal point for the pack network. The other dragons arranged themselves in a precise pattern that maximized their collective consciousness, a formation their racial memories called the Conclave. "Show us," they said in unison, their combined mental voice resonating with power. Marcus projected the signal analysis into the center of the chamber. The holographic display showed stellar coordinates, energy patterns, and most importantly, the quantum signature of a dragon in distress. But as Stellar Wind had noted, there was something unusual about the patterns. This isn't a normal distress call, Marcus realized aloud. It's encoded, layered with information that only another dragon could decode. Vorthak, the eldest of their rescued pack, extended his consciousness into the display. The ancient dragon's scales had gone silver with age, and his mind carried memories of the Empire's final days. "Battle codes," he announced grimly. "Haven't seen these patterns in 3,000 years. Which means this is a war leader calling for reinforcements. Someone who survived the Great Scattering with their command structure intact." Marcus felt excitement and apprehension in equal measure. If there was a draconic war leader still alive, still fighting, it could change everything. But it also meant they were about to walk into a battle that had been raging for millennia. "How long before we can reach the Vega sector?" Marcus asked. 2 days if we push the drives," Stellar Wind replied. "But Marcus, if this is truly a war leader, they will not trust easily. Many pack bonds were broken during the scattering. Trust became difficult." "Then we'll have to prove ourselves," Marcus said simply. The journey to Vega took them through some of the most dangerous space in the galaxy. The outer rim was wild territory, filled with rogue AIs, escaped bioweapons, and worse things that preferred the dark between stars. But the pack traveled in strength now, their combined presence making most predators think twice about attacking. As they approached the source of the signal, Marcus began to understand why this dragon had survived when so many others had perished. The entire system was a fortress. Asteroid fields had been weaponized, turning space debris into automated defense platforms. Energy mines drifted in orbital patterns that would challenge even experienced pilots. And at the center of it all was something that made Marcus's enhanced senses real. "That's not a planet," he whispered. "No," Stellar Wind agreed. "That's a ship. A dreadnought from the old Empire." The vessel was massive beyond comprehension, easily the size of Earth's moon. Its hull was scarred by centuries of battle, but it still radiated power that made Marcus's teeth ache. This was what draconic engineering could accomplish at its peak. A mobile world capable of taking on entire fleets. "Incoming transmission," Vorthak announced. The voice that filled their ship was ancient, proud, and utterly alien to human ears. But through the pack bond, Marcus could understand every nuance. "Unknown dragons. You approach Redoubt Prime, last bastion of the 7th Fleet. Identify yourselves or be destroyed." Marcus stepped forward, letting his transformed presence announce itself across all frequencies. "I am Marcus Chen, pack bonded to Stellar Wind of the Lost Clutch. We come seeking alliance against the Devourers." Silence stretched for long moments.
Then impossible.
"Humans lack the quantum complexity for true pack bonding. You are either deluded or this is some Devourer trick." "Allow me," Stellar Wind interjected. The great dragon began to sing, not with voice, but with pure energy that carried their entire story. The song told of Marcus's choice to save a dying hatchling, of the pack bond that had transformed them both, of the battles they'd fought and the dragons they'd rescued. It was truth given form, impossible to fake or distort. The response was immediate. Defensive systems powered down throughout the system, and a docking bay large enough to hold their entire fleet opened in the dreadnought's side. "Come aboard." "Impossible ones," the voice said. And now Marcus could hear wonder beneath the caution. "I am Peraxis, war leader of the 7th Fleet, last guardian of the inner sanctum. And I have been waiting 3,000 years for the pack to return." As their ships approached the massive dreadnought, Marcus felt the weight of history pressing down on him. Whatever they found inside that ancient vessel would determine not just the fate of the pack, but the balance of power in the galaxy itself. "Ready for what comes next?" Stellarwind asked. Marcus smiled, feeling the familiar warmth of their bond suffuse his transformed consciousness. "We've come this far together. Whatever happens next, we face it as pack." The docking bay's gravity field caught their ships and drew them into the heart of the last draconic fortress. Behind them, space was empty and dark. But ahead, Marcus could sense something that made his pulse quicken with anticipation. They weren't just meeting a survivor. They were about to discover that the war for the galaxy's future had never really ended. It had simply been waiting for the right moment to begin again. Peraxis was magnificent and terrible to behold. The ancient war leader stood 3 times the height of any dragon Marcus had encountered, her scales shifting through deep crimsons and golds that spoke of age and power beyond imagining. Her eyes held the weight of 3 millennia, and when she spoke, reality itself seemed to pay attention. "So," she said, her mental voice carrying harmonics that made the dreadnought's hull vibrate, "the pack bonds have evolved beyond our ancient understanding. Fascinating and troubling." Marcus stood in the vast throne chamber at the heart of Redoubt Prime, feeling insignificant despite his own transformation. The 17 dragons of his pack flanked him, but even their combined presence seemed small in this cathedral of living metal and energy. "Troubling?" Marcus asked. Peraxis gestured with one massive claw, and holographic displays filled the air around them. Star charts, tactical assessments, and sensor readings painted a picture that made Marcus's enhanced consciousness real with the implications. "The Devourers were never truly defeated," the war leader explained, "merely driven into the deep dark between galaxies. But your activities, the energy signatures from your rescue missions, the quantum resonance of new pack bonds, have awakened something that should have remained sleeping." The displays showed movement in the void beyond the galaxy's edge. Massive shadows shifting through dimensions that human science had never detected. Hundreds of them. Thousands. "The Great Swarm." Stellarwind projected, its mental voice tight with inherited fear. The legends spoke of it. All Devourers moving as one, consuming entire galactic clusters. The legends were accurate, Peraxis confirmed grimly. "I have been monitoring their movements for centuries, watching them gather strength in the cosmic deep." They were content to wait, feeding on the sparse matter between galaxies. "But now they know the dragons are returning," Marcus finished, "and they're coming to finish what they started." Peraxis's scales shifted to approving silver. "You understand quickly, human who is more." "Yes, they come. My long-range sensors detect advanced scouts already entering our galaxy's outer spiral arms. The main swarm will arrive within a standard year." Marcus felt the weight of impossible odds settling on his shoulders. Their pack of 18 dragons, even aided by human technology and determination, could never face such a force. It would be like trying to stop a tsunami with a handful of pebbles. "There has to be something we can do," he said. "Some weakness we can exploit." "Oh, there is," Peraxis said, her mental voice carrying dark amusement. "But it will require sacrifices that even dragons have never contemplated." The war leader moved to the chamber's center, where a massive crystalline structure pulsed with contained energy. Marcus recognized it immediately. It was similar to the device that had first awakened Stellarwind, but infinitely more complex. "Behold the heart of Empire," Peraxis announced. "The quantum nexus that once connected every dragon in the galaxy. It has been dormant since the Great Scattering, its network broken by death and distance. But with enough pack bonds, enough conscious minds linked to its matrix, you could reawaken the entire draconic species," Marcus breathed. understanding flooding through him. Every dragon that ever lived, their consciousness stored in quantum memory waiting for recall. Precisely. The Empire could rise again not as it was, but as it was meant to be. Thousands of dragon minds working in perfect harmony, their combined will reshaping reality itself. Against such power, even the great swarm would falter. Marcus studied the crystalline heart, his enhanced senses detecting the staggering complexity of its quantum architecture. It was beautiful and terrifying. A device that could restore an empire or destroy everything they had fought to protect. "What's the catch?" he asked, because there always was one. Paraxis's scales darkened to the color of old blood. "The heart requires willing sacrifice to achieve full activation. Not death, something harder. Complete dissolution of individual identity into the collective consciousness. Those who activate it will become part of the network forever. Their personal existence subsumed into the greater whole." Silence fell over the chamber. Marcus felt the shock and fear rippling through his pack bonds as the other dragons processed what they had just heard. To become part of the heart meant losing everything that made them unique individuals. "No," Stellar Wind said firmly. "There must be another way. Pack bonds are about connection, not absorption." "The old ways failed," Paraxis replied with ancient sadness. "Individual dragons, no matter how powerful, could not stand against the devourer swarm. Only unity of purpose, unity of will, can achieve victory." Marcus found himself thinking of the miners at Kepler Station, the civilians who had trusted him to protect them, of all the worlds in the galaxy that would burn if the devourers weren't stopped, of the choice he had made 3 years ago to save one dying hatchling, and how that choice had led them all to this moment. "There's a third option," he said slowly. "Something that combines individual strength with collective purpose." Both Pyraxis and Stellar Wind focused on him intently. "The pack bond," Marcus continued. "It doesn't erase identity, it enhances it. Each dragon becomes stronger while remaining themselves. What if we modified the heart to work with pack bonds instead of absorption?" Pyraxis's eyes narrowed. "Impossible. The quantum mathematics alone are beyond draconic understanding," Marcus agreed. "But not beyond human draconic understanding. I've spent 3 years linked to your quantum consciousness. I can see patterns you can't, approach problems from angles that pure draconic thought can't reach." He moved to the crystalline heart, placing his transformed hands on its surface. Energy flowed through him, carrying the accumulated knowledge of an empire. But instead of being overwhelmed, Marcus began to understand. The heart's architecture was elegant but rigid, designed for a hierarchical consciousness that demanded conformity. Human creativity and draconic power working together could create something better. "Show me the specifications," Marcus said. "Everything. I think we can save the galaxy without losing ourselves in the process." Pyraxis stared at him for a long moment, then began projecting technical data that would have fried an unenhanced human brain. But Marcus absorbed it all, his consciousness dancing between dimensions as he traced pathways through the quantum matrix. "He's right," Stellar Wind announced suddenly, its mind joining with Marcus's to analyze the possibilities. "The modifications are possible. Difficult, but possible." "It will take every dragon we can find," Marcus said, his thoughts racing through calculations. "Every pack bond we can form. And we'll need human allies, ships, weapons, technology. This can't be just a draconic solution." Pyraxis's scales shifted through a dozen colors as she processed the implications. "You speak of war on a scale that will reshape the galaxy itself." "Yes," Marcus said simply. "But it will be our war, fought our way. The dragons won't rise again as conquerors or gods. They'll rise as guardians, protectors of all the species that call this galaxy home." The war leader was silent for a long time. When she finally spoke, her mental voice carried wonder and something that might have been hope. "You truly are something new under the stars, Marcus Chen. Very well. If you can modify the heart to preserve individual identity while achieving collective power, then Pyraxis of the 7th Fleet will follow your lead." Marcus felt a surge of determination that echoed through every pack bond in the chamber. They had found their path forward, dangerous, uncertain, but their own. The devourers were coming, but they would face not the scattered remnants of a broken empire, but something the galaxy had never seen before. Dragons and humans, working together as equals. Pack bonds that spanned species. Technology and instinct merged into something greater than either could achieve alone. The great swarm was vast and ancient and hungry, But it had never faced hope made manifest, courage given form, and the unbreakable bonds of family chosen rather than inherited. The final battle was coming, and for the first time in 3,000 years, the light had a chance of winning.